Well, hello everyone. Here to show you the Matthew's Dream Happiness coloring right here is basically talking about road trips, say vacations, or it could be just you say is highway travel trips you say, but they're talking about the memory, and then of course about what you say plans for say is for the road trip you say, the travel arrangements you say that it could be arranged for the traveling so far as highway traveling, or it could be say that just driving around town or whatever you call it, visiting another town it is. But so far with Matthew's Dream Happiness coloring is talking about is basically talking about is the story about me, as what I got drawn right here is talking about is showing that of course with the most of us, most people here, if they known that of course one of my talents, of course, is be other than the fact about drawing, it is that between what I remember and then of course about drawing, and of course there could be some things that maybe I can't remember, and then maybe a few other say a few some people probably cannot remember a few things, but then on the other hand too, that people will probably say that whenever they can't remember a certain moment, you say maybe they don't have no pictures from that certain moment, or maybe no letters or no signatures or whatever you call it. Could be a wedding date, or it could have been say a reunion or whatever it is. But of course, what I got drawn right here, of course, is talking about me, and from what I remember from the travel, the trips that I've taken with family and friends. It is, as you see right here, is I got right here, I drew right here as me is sitting right here on the cushioned seat, and say in the van, which I've rode in the van. I would say maybe many a times. It's like that. If anything, I think I rode in a train a few. Maybe about 15 times, maybe 20 times, something like that. Whenever I was young, rode in a train, and of course rode on a bus, and then rode, of course, rode in a roller coaster, and then along with the go-kart, number of things that would you say that run on wheels, or would you say that run on a track? You say run on that certain route, but what I got drawn right here, of course, is talking about is that it's like that I go ahead and added some ideas, say from what I remember from road trips. And most of us here, if you were to go on a road trip, that a lot of times that you may not remember that certain time and moment, that whenever that if you were riding along, that you may not remember too much of the scenery or whatever you call it. But let's just say that if I could use, it's like you got the crayon right here, that and the metallic green, see it is that see that the steel, say the steel blue, but you see you got this this metallic color right here. Go ahead and use like some detailed scenery right here. So go ahead and maybe put a tree right here. And of course, this type of a tree is like make that like a blue-green type color. But and then along with some grass, you see. But most of us, if you remember that whenever you would go on a road trip, it is that you would see different sceneries. And of course, one of them could be like fields, and then of course there could be maybe details in the back, such as there could be a house further back, and there could be a house see you get that the house right here, but there could be a house maybe further back from that from the scenery, from wherever you're driving from, and two, or it's like you got the house right there, and then of course you got that. See here, go ahead and draw say part of the house, the house, which I guess will be sitting on maybe a few acres of land. It is maybe about 16 acres, something like that. But the different things that you can see whenever you're on a road, say one of the things that you can see, but of course talking about is like for the Matthew's Dream Happiness, is it talking about the things that, of course, I enjoyed whenever I would say that, other than the fact about my talented art, that of course there may be a few things that I remember. Of course, most of the memories I still remember, of course, is whenever I was in school. Whenever I was in school, and I still remember that the first and second grade teacher would give you points. These little cube looking things, cube looking the little point plastic cubes. It is these little mini cubes, and they were pretty small. I would say they only measured about maybe 8 millimeters length and width. It is, but then they were probably about maybe about a part of the size as a dime, maybe about that size, but anyway, they would give you cubes. They would count as points, and of course, if you earned about maybe 25 points, if you got an answer right, then they would give you a point, and then if she would take a point away, they would give you like cups. They would give you like little cups that they would let you they would put the points in. And nowadays, seems like with most companies, they say that if you go shopping, they say that they have their own words. They say of points, but so far with points is that of course that with the cube, you can probably think about for the the dream happiness is that I came up with the idea is that for whatever reason that like the cube was like the box you say cube was my favorite shape, and I think one of the reasons, of course, was the fact about it had different sides. And I remember that my parents and my dad and I built a box kite, and then I think maybe a box a storage. It's like it was made out of paper, not really really well made one, but if I remember right, that the box was like one of my favorite favorite shapes. It is, you say the favorite that say the octagons, you say shape, and then but talking about is with the cube, is that most of us here, if you may not have that picture, or maybe that certain baseball glove or whatever you call it, or maybe that certain card or whatever you call it, just to help you remember anything, is the fact about is like for that family group, is that whenever I was in school, I remember that they had you write kind of like this, is that they give you the lines right out between lowercase and uppercase, you say letters, and so far as the way is like I really don't even know how they would maybe write it in Korea or China or Japan or something like that, but other than that, for English is that they would that you would write family group like that. But I remember that one of the things that whenever I was in school, of course, was doing that the shapes the U which mean that's like for for group hug, it's like for group, and then along with family. But other than that being a part of something was one of my favorite parts about doing stuff. It's like with that family and friends, it is being a part of something, other than the fact that a couple of times that I did not feel like I was a part of something, and then of course that I would get upset about it, which I'm sure a lot of people would say that they more likely they may understand a little bit of that if you don't feel a part of something, then you're more likely you might as well just go somewhere else or keep yourself entertained with something else. But other than that, you got the van right here, and of course that I have rode in many other vehicles, but of course the van, which my family has never owned a van. A friend of mine had a van, and then of course that about a story about the vans is that most of the time a lot of people say if you're going to be doing any type of road traveling, it is that you could probably think about is that I remember with the van, I don't know if it was a cargo van or a luxury van, as you say, but most vans, I used to always think that it would be really neat if you could have a TV and a VCR in a car, because I remember I would say that the year would have probably been about 1994 it was. See, 1994, and from that year, I used to always think that it would be kind of neat to have something for entertainment, in the car, and I would always maybe bring bring something, to keep myself entertained. I don't know if it was a Game Boy or if it was, any type of any type of electronics, a Lego set or whatever you call it. Usually bring myself something to play with, whenever I was away from home, you say. But of course, that I think that a couple of times I may have brought some crayons or something like that, with me or something like that to keep myself entertained. I remember that anywhere I would go, if it was a doctor's office or whatever you call it, my mom or dad would take me places that a lot of places that they had a lot of times I would always think that magazines, reading magazines. It's like I got my reading glasses right there, got the glasses I used to wear right there. But anyway, I used to always think that magazines, it's like that they would usually have magazines inside the waiting areas, at the doctor's offices or whatever you call it. But a lot of people would probably say that with magazines, I'm like, they can get boring, and that I can't really remember whenever magazines was really an interest to me. I don't think it's ever has been an interest to me. But a lot of times it was either art or creative activity, and stories, there's storybooks or whatever you call it. But for whatever reason, that if I were to be going somewhere, then a lot of times is that that more likely it was probably maybe a video Game Boy, anything like that I wanted to play with. But you got right here is me fastening the seatbelt. But of course I can go on stories, from what I remember. But of course, to make the kind of long story short, is the fact that that one of my dreams, of course, is being a part of something that being a part of a road trip, or being a part of that special event. Kind of what you say is made me feel so far as the sign for the wonderful feeling, you say, is for that dream of happiness, is that knowing about me, is that that's one thing that makes me feel important, is to know that I was invited to, or I was able to participate in that certain moment. And if most of us here think about between the past and the future, is thinking about is ways. It's like if you could maybe sign. You got the highway scene, right? That for the interstate highway it is. But if most of us could maybe sign. It's like you're familiar with signing your name, but try maybe signing. It's like for the year. The year 2013, and of course it could be the year 2014. It is. Try signing your name. It is. It's like for Matt. Like you try to sign your name with the crayon, it is, and then of course that if you were to use the green, the olive green, it is, to maybe put the the year from what you remember from what at that certain time. Go ahead and maybe write something like it's like other than 1994, it's like 1991. But other than that, it's like with the memories that you do, that you think about, is that anything that you maybe do, signing something or whatever you call it, or doing something may remind you a little bit of a few stories from the past. But then on the other hand too, that one way you can also remember them by is to think of something. It's like to come up so far with coming up with clues for what you can remember. And so far as for dream happiness, is of course is to think about maybe your favorite time of moment, your favorite color, and of course, your favorite shape. Other than that, it's like for the Matthews, dream for happiness, coloring for the activity. It's like you get the scene right there. It's like for the highway driving, like that for Matthew's dream, happiness coloring.